Welcome to the Narrowgate podcast. I'm Weston.
And I'm Logan.
And this is a little bit different of an
Shake
episode.
it up. Let's shake it up today.
We are not interviewing a guest. We are simply having some conversations between the three of us.
The
Me,
three
Logan,
of us.
and Colin, the producer.
Let's clarify. Colin, who refused to be on camera, and that's fine. We let him.
He's also not on camera for the whole conversation, but you can hear him.
That's true.
That's correct.
So we decided that we were just going to talk about something topical, and this particular conversation found its place in social media and how it affects identity and how people see themselves and develop the identity that they walk in.
And honestly, we would love to hear your comments about this topic as well. So feel free to please leave your comments in the comment section.
Yeah, or comments about future topics that you would like us to discuss or think it would be entertaining to hear us talk for a while about a thing. That's okay with us.
And as always, if you want to hear more about Narrowgate, if this is all kind of new to you, you can check out information in the show notes. And as always, we hope you enjoy this episode.
At one point, there was a conversation about even graduations. You know, like I film them and I put them on YouTube. But the primary reason I put them on YouTube is so that the guys who are graduating and their families have access to the video. Because that's a treasured memory. But at one point, we had talked about the potential of live streaming it. But our internet is not good enough yet at the barn to even try it. But I don't even know how I feel about that. You know, because it's like sort of personal stuff. Not that anything is like weird or bad, but if the world has the ability to watch, I feel like that it becomes less like you have to factor that in to the things that you say and don't say. And
well, I mean, for me, my take on like social media and stuff, because again, for young people, it is. I mean, they've got data on it now, and we could look it up about like how much. Where do people get their news? Like mainstream, young people don't do mainstream media.
Right.
It's all through socials.
And mainstream media is losing credibility, like it's plummeting,
Well, and the danger of getting your news from online. I mean, I knew when COVID happened, it's like, all right, well, the age of objective truth is officially dead.
Yeah.
Because you really can't trust anything you see, even with your own eyes. You can find anything you're looking for on the internet.
Yeah, because everybody who has an opinion about anything shares it to the world, and there's so much out there that you don't know what is true. I mean, I
mean, and the crazy truth is we live in a world where like psyops are a thing.
Oh, dude, when that whole like that couple weeks where there was breaking news like every 4 minutes, you know, like when Trump was almost assassinated and all the, the Secret Service stuff. And it's like, there was something breaking news every,
and then it's orbs and drones, baby. Orbs and drones. You guys want to talk about orbs and drones?
So I started watching.
Come on, Colin.
No,
you don't want to talk about orbs and drones?
No, look.
Well, I started that sentence so I could have the end of the sentence.
Oh, my bad.
No, we're going to interrupt you.
Just as long as everyone knows that, I was talking.
Nearly 40% of young Americans get their news from influencers. Hot dang.
Okay, but that's just influencers. That's not saying they get it like there's going to be other clips that they're still getting through social media.
That's basically from social media.
Yeah. Influencers use clips.
I think that number's got to be higher.
What was the stat?
40%.
40?
40%.
I thought it was something like 80. I don't know.
And the majority are whom the majority of whom are men and lean to the right.
That also makes sense.
That's age 18 to 29.
That also makes sense.
Absolutely makes sense.
Well, that's how I got into TikTok. Like, I started watching TikTok because that was where I got my news. We don't have cable or anything, and feel like searching for an app on my Apple TV, but watching the news on TikTok was how I was getting my news for a while.
No, me too.
Then after all the breaking news kind of settled, then I just found myself like scrolling, and like doing nothing but watching, big people fall downstairs, or something. It was hilarious.
Oh, dude, what was for a while I was watching these clips from these guys who they they hack into scammers, got like international scam calls, and they like hack their computers and hack their cameras and like mess with these guys overseas. That's good content, man. I was eating that up for a while.
It's funny. Well, the thing though, like with everybody being able to speak about anything around any topic, there's so many things that I would see on TikTok. Like I got on this huge spiral of like all these conspiracy theories, you know? And like, there's so many people that would throw out things and make points and stuff that I've never been really like a conspiracy theorist or like even wanted to talk about stuff. But man, for that couple of weeks, like I didn't know anything. I'm like, is the earth flat? These people are making a pretty darn good case, but there's no way. I don't believe that, you know, like, and then, you know, the all the stuff with Beyonce, you know, have you seen that? Like she is evidently like a, you know, like a queen pin of, you know, the Grammys or Emmys or whatever. And if you don't pay homage to Beyonce and say thank you, then she kills you.
Dude, all the stuff with, it's a wacky time to be alive. All this stuff with Diddy going on.
Oh yeah, dude.
No?
What do you mean? What happened with Diddy?
Colin, do you not know? You just don't make me.
Of course I know.
I'm not an expert. Don't position me to be like, no, they found out even like in recent weeks that like when something about like he poisoned Jamie Foxx when Jamie Foxx went to the hospital and almost died.
Crazy.
And it's, dude, and that's the thing is like with the conspiracy theory thing, when your algorithm's like, oh, you want a little taste of that? It starts giving you more and more. And I mean, you're watching these old clips of like all these celebrities on like the Ellen DeGeneres show, and it's Diddy like threatening people in front of a live audience. Yeah. And now we know what we know, and we're looking back and you're going, oh, that's downright creepy.
Dude, and then you scroll to the next video and it's like alien abductions. And you know, like this armada of, you know, aliens that are heading for Earth.
Don't get me started, you know, on that stuff, like man.
And I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I had to get off. Like we started 21 days of prayer and fasting at my church this month, and it was, God made it very evident that I didn't need to fast from food. I needed to fast from TikTok and like shows and stuff because I was just
Weston, that a biblical fast is a fast of food.
I didn't say biblical fast.
And if you're not 21
days of prayer and fasting, I'm biblical fasting.
I'm just kidding.
No, but I did. I took it's like 21 days is what it takes to break a habit or develop a new habit or something. And so I have been, making a lot better use of my time in the last, couple weeks.
Yeah. But even talking about the algorithm.
Yeah.
That's like in itself forming a new identity-ish for you online.
Yes.
Because robots are the ones that are controlling what is being fed to you. And the robots know that you will react and respond and engage more with something that is scary or something that is controversial or something that is dividing. Divisive.
Yeah.
And that is how we and the young children and adults are forming their opinions about themselves and about how they see the world, which is wild.
Yeah. It's wild.
It shows up even like in the political stuff. Like if you are more right leaning, you're going to get right-wing videos. You're going to get conservative, views and news clips. And the more that you watch, the more that shapes how you view politics and how you view the world. And if you lean more left, then that's going to show up more on your algorithm and just drive that identity home until rights hate the left and left hates the right because it's just been shoved in your face all this time.
And I'm by no means an expert. It's crazy. It's crazy to think like what Facebook started when we were graduating Narrowgate. 20 years ago.
No, I believe it started in 2005.
Okay. Yeah. 20 years ago. Thousands of years, humans existed without social media.
It's crazy.
And without social platforms. And now it's just almost everything.
Except in those days, after the Gutenberg printing press was created, that's how news was spread.
Yeah.
Right. So there was, handwritten letters and there was like things like scripture that we get that were preserved for thousands of years. And then the Gutenberg printing press was created. I cannot remember the date, but it was a long time ago, maybe the 1600s, 1500s. Hold on.
We can ask.
Hey Siri,
Here you go.
when was the Gutenberg printing press invented?
Eight.
Gutenberg printing press was invented in Germany around 1440.
1440.
I was a couple years
In
100
Germany.
years
What
off.
What accent
Right.
does your Siri have?
Irish?
It's awesome.
Yeah,
I think
she's
mine's British. I like having a little British robot.
very,
mine is.
very nice to listen to.
I don't know that mine talks.
Also, you woman or man? Your Siri.
I don't know. I don't have Siri talk. I just
Hey,
use
Siri.
read it.
Oh wait, are you just a normal white lady right now? What's going on?
Sorry, I don't
Oh,
understand.
no, there
She's
we go.
British.
She's British.
She's British. I want to hear mine.
She's like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
What? I just say, hey Siri.
Yeah.
Hey Siri. Tell me something cool about anything. Yeah, so she doesn't talk. She just sends me links.
Tell me something.
Let me ask you a better question. Hey Siri, when was the date of the first moon landing?
Oh, that's an interesting topic.
Yeah, see, she knows me. She doesn't talk.
She knows that it didn't happen.
Yeah.
She's like, got nothing.
All right, anyways, so the Gutenberg printing press in 1440, which is so long ago,
Yeah.
right? News was spread more because of that invention. But who curated it? People.
Yeah.
A person was always behind, an editor was always behind. They decided what went out. And that was how that was for 600 years. More than, 600 years.
Math.
Newspapers, articles, magazines, all that stuff. It was always a person or a group of people who decided this is what will be served to the public.
And this is what won't be.
And this is what won't be. Like they'd get a ton of stuff that they wouldn't release to the public. Now it's artificial intelligence that's serving content up because they know in the human brain what gets more clicks.
Right.
And that's like anything you see on social media, anything you see in the news, anything you see anywhere outside of your group of people, you know that someone else is out to get something from you. They want your click, they want your attention, they want money in order to generate more of their business so that they can do what they want to do. Not all of it's even like a evil thing. It's like, this is what we know is good for business.
Yeah. It's a mentality that we have to do this in order to succeed or have a platform.
What did Dan Scott equate, like generally just AI? Because that kind of reminds me that like he equated it to like a principality of the air, right? Which can be subject to Christ.
Sure.
Like can I even make like, you know, that it's something greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
Like a nation or you'll have to go back and listen to what our first ever, second
That
ever
was number
episode.
2. Yeah.
But like, yeah, it's like you could probably do some work even on your own socials as far as like, because, you know, you like say you get something that comes across your feed and you're like, I don't like that. I don't want to see that. You have the option to go in and be like, dislike, show me less of this. I never do that.
I don't either.
But
I
like
do.
you can probably personally curate your own algorithm
To some degree.
to be subject
Yeah.
to Christ.
Yeah.
But it doesn't do that automatically.
Well, then there's a whole nother element to the social media and like TikTok and Facebook Reels and all that stuff. A video gets posted, the AI algorithm decides this is a video that you like, but then you have included in that video a comment section that includes all the world's opinions about that particular clip. And so people who would never speak up their opinion in a group of, you know, in a physical in-person group of people now feel like behind the protection of their, you know, iPhone where nobody's around, they can say whatever they want. They can be as, you know, they can be as rude or they can be as hateful or they can be as, you know, argumentative as they want. And that just feeds into this whole attitude, this like, you know, social attitude of my opinion is I'm entitled to my opinion and people need to hear it. And I've seen that here at Narrowgate. Guys come in and they're just so willing to share what they think about something that doesn't have anything to do with them, you know? It's like
Yes. Say that again. So you're saying that like they bring that attitude of online commenting,
I think so. I
and
mean,
they
like,
bring it into the lodge. So
Yeah,
what,
it's like-
what does that
so
look
like,
like?
you know, you watch a video, maybe it's a video of, you know, I don't know, some piece of a Donald Trump speech.
Yeah.
Right. Thousands and thousands of comments. Some of them are like, love Trump, you know, MAGA, you know, American flag, he's the savior of the country. And then other people are like, oh, he's a convicted felon, he's, you know, he's the devil, blah, blah, blah. It's polar opposing views. Then you get like all these comments that just, it's so easy to type in your phone what you think about something, but none of these people would ever say that to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
You know, they would never do that in person. And I imagine 95% of the people that made hateful comments they wouldn't say it in public around people, but because there's sort of an anonymity to it.
Yeah.
They can just put it out there because they want to be heard. So guys come into Narrowgate with that sort of lifestyle of, if I post something in a comment section, people respond to it. I can say what I want. I can be heard. I can find my need met for, you know, being seen and feeling like significant, like I have an opinion and a voice that matters and I deserve to be heard. They bring it in here, and whenever it comes to a moment where, say, the staff makes a decision about what they're going to be doing a particular day or how we're going to handle a certain situation, dude, they will just, all of them just freely offer their, you know, their discontentment with that decision. Like, I just don't know that I feel like that you handled that situation very well. And like inside, I'm like, man, I just don't care. You know, I'm not even going to say I'm sorry you feel that way, because I just could not care any less about what you think about how we handled that. But externally, I have to meet that with, okay, help me understand what it is that you're disagreeing with. Like, why did you feel like that was so important to share with me? Instead of just trusting the process, instead of just recognizing that you came here looking for something that we apparently have.
Yeah.
So why the need for your opinion about things? And I think that social media has a large impact in
That's
that area.
interesting. I don't think I thought about that.
I mean, but even further with social media, like Narrowgate is all about identity and purpose. And social media has a way of, you know, you say social, that's your circle of people that you're supposed to be influenced by, right? And that's why there are things called influencers on social media. And we claim at Narrowgate that our job is to strip down a student, not physically, but strip down a student from what they identify with in their circle, in order for them to listen to God and then receive a new identity.
Yeah.
So how does that play, like with social media and what you see here, how does that play into like a Narrowgate student's experience? And then what is the way that I don't even know if this is a thing, but how do you introduce that back into their life before they leave?
Yeah. I think what I've noticed a shift in sort of the culture of the current generation of 18 to 25-year-olds that is distinctly different than what I remember as a student, and even what I remember early on in being on staff here. It's a wave of, I don't know exactly how to describe it, but if you think back to, like, you know, the times that you were talking about, you know, printing press or before social media, you know, you had people in your life that could speak into your life, that could influence you with just how they see the world, how they communicate, how they interact with you, what they think. And so if you're around, say, you know, you've got 10 major roles in your life, major influences in your life, that's going to shape your worldview. Like those people that are in your life and that are sharing their opinions, sharing their views, that's going to largely impact how you see the world. Now with social media, you don't just have 10, you have 10 million, you know, like there are influences from all over the world, people you would never meet, that you would never hear from, that are speaking into your life every day as you're scrolling through stuff. And then you can engage back with it, and you can argue, and you can, you know, share your opinion. And there's so many voices today that have the ability now to speak into your life. And I think that when guys come in to Narrowgate today, they have, like, social media has been around for as long as these guys have been alive. Like, in the formative years of their lives, they have grown up in it. It is their normal. Like, so to step away from social media for a season of 8 months is, nobody does that. You know, like, people in the world don't do that. You don't just say, I'm taking a hiatus for 8 months, you know, but guys do that here, and the noise starts to settle. You know, it's just like, now you've got this many people that are here. There's, 20 students on property with, a handful of staff members, and that is your whole world of influence. And I think that with the settling of that, it's difficult on the front end, obviously, as they're sort of getting used to the idea that they have no social media or access to the outside world. That's when they start to realize, like, what is it that I believe? What is it that I actually think? Like, what is my own view? Because my whole life I've just held the views of everyone else, and it's a really cool moment here. You know,
that you hear this all the time, and this is probably your experience, Logan. I know it's mine. Is that whenever guys come to Narrowgate, they say, I had a relationship with God, but it was always a relationship through my parents. Yeah, I didn't really have my own relationship, and I didn't know who Jesus was, only but my parents told me. But when I came to Narrowgate, I found out who Jesus was to me. And it was now a personal relationship. Yeah. And it was because we get rid of the noise. We take away the parents. We take away the friends. We take away the phones. We take away the email. We take away the money. We take away, like, everything is taken away so that, yes, you have a new influence of people with students and staff, but then all of those people that are here are saying, don't ask us. Yeah. Ask God. That's it. Like, he's going to tell you.
Having your needs met.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
But it's that refocusing that's, it's weird. I don't even have perspective on that. 'Cause, like, as a student,
that wasn't a thing.
It was not a thing.
Yeah. I mean,
but you had your own social influences.
Sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you were influenced by your band and your friends, and you were influenced by your parents, and you had all these influences that, were your social circles, but I can't imagine coming in with all that.
Even before social media came on the scene. I mean, even just like when, probably traditional media, which has been going on for a long time, like the news cycle and stuff like that. Like, I've often wondered, for thousands of years, like, humans, your social circle was what you saw with your own eyes, the people that you interacted with on a daily basis.
Right.
And then the world got smaller and smaller and smaller. Even if it's just like means of travel. And then we've got, we're seeing news from cities that we'll never visit. We're hearing issues and tragedies.
Right. An overwhelming amount.
An overwhelming amount. And here's the thing. It's like, okay, so if I watch it and say we dial it back 20 years, if I hear of, like, God forbid, like something as awful as like a school shooting, but say that it's like, man, 2 states over and 100 years ago, you may never hear about it. That doesn't make it less tragic.
Right.
But, like, I don't know. I often imagine, like, man, God created us to interact with what was in front of our faces. And, like, now all of a sudden I have anxiety about this thing that I'm not directly associated with, or now all of a sudden, like, I've got causes that I'm hearing about that I'm like, now all of a sudden I care about this thing that I would never see with my own eyes. That doesn't make it less tragic or less important, but it does. Should it be less important to me in this moment? Because what it does, it distracts me from the people that I will interact with on a daily basis.
And because of our ability to learn about 3 or 4 or 5 new tragedies in the world every hour or every day, it's not even your fault, but you become callous to the pain that people feel in the world just because it happens so much. It happens all the time. Like, if you just hear about, a wildfire in California that's tearing down people's houses one day, and a monsoon in another country that flooded an entire village the next day, and a school shooting the next day, and an assassination attempt the next day, and all these things, eventually, like, you can't process all that emotionally, and it just becomes news. It just becomes like, yep, the world sucks.
Well, dude, and honestly, I think I'm just waking up to like, I think I've lived in a state of confusion for a while. And I think social media has a lot to do with it. The kind of content that I'm seeing. I mean, cause you even mentioned the wildfires. It's like, oh yeah, that's tragic.
Yeah.
And then I've got some guy popping up on my reel going, hey, check out this patent I just looked up about energy weapons and directed energy beams and how it doesn't affect things of blue color. And here's all this. I mean, the conspiracy theorist in me just goes wave after wave of like, this is nuts, but I don't even know what to trust. You
Listen,
can find anything and everything on the internet.
Have you ever read or heard of the book? And I've read this, and I don't work for a church, so I can say this. There's a book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Poop.
Yeah. I've heard of it.
Not giving a shoe?
An F.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. You can do it.
Frack.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I was going to try to be cute, but I couldn't figure it out.
This book
The Subtle Art.
changed.
That's what it's called. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a
And it's by a guy named Mark Manson. And it's all about your value system. That's what it is. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, it's funny you like that book because that's who you, and I'm like, no, you don't even understand the book, which that also, the other part is true as well.
Yeah.
But
They're not wrong.
yeah.
Not mutually exclusive there.
And I'm going to butcher this a little bit, but basically what he says is, as a human being, like someone who is born as a human being, you are only allowed to have 5 things that you can really care about.
Mm.
And he's adamant. I mean, it's like, yes, you have your religion, right? So you say God is important to you. Your relationship with God is important. That's number 1. Number 2, your family. You can care about your family a lot. Number 3, you care about your job. You want to do a good job. You want to, and along with family, some of the community around you. Well, guess what? You only have 2 other things that you can mentally and emotionally care about in your life, which means, is it going to be the homeless? Is it going to be dying children in Sudan? Is it going to be wars in Ukraine? Mm-hmm. Is it going to be abortion? Is it going to be politics? Is like, what is it in your life that you can actually handle emotionally and mentally that doesn't send you into an emotionally anxiety-ridden spiral to say, I care about too many things and my values are out of line. Mm-hmm. And that's what social media does.
Yeah.
And that's what the news does because the news wants your attention and it wants your clicks. It says, look at this scary thing, pay attention to this. You should care about this because the world should care. The California fires is another example. Incredibly tragic. We've got family in LA. Thank God everybody's fine. But I can't focus on that.
Yeah.
I have kids. I have a job. I have a wife. I have these other values that I have to pay attention to in order for my life to continue and be fulfilled. Otherwise, I'm split. So like that book, when I read that book, I was like, dang, dude, this is legit. Cause this is where we're at as a culture where you look on social media, you're supposed to care about everything and everyone and anywhere.
Yep.
And you can't. And so your body, like your soul feels fragmented.
Well,
is the premise of like that, like the title of that book, like whatever is outside of the 5, like you are allowed to not care about.
I mean, the title of the book is a hook to get people to read it, obviously.
I mean, but even back to that issue of the wildfires, it's like, my heart wants to care for those people who've lost things, who've been tragic. And yet at the same time, it's like, here's the rest of the commentary on social media that says, back to the conspiracy theory. Because again, it's like, you can see 2 sides, you'll see 5 sides of every argument. It's like, oh yeah, well, do you know that, LA smart cities are coming and the government did this, I mean, it's like, I can't even focus on caring about the people because my mind is too distracted by, oh yeah, but what about this? And what about this? And what about, I mean, like, dude, it's nuts. And I confess, it's like, dude, I've fallen into that state of confusion on a great many topics to the point where I'm like, it's weird. It's like, I know in my own heart, it's like, I've known for a long time that I'm not going to see anything on a screen that is true. I mean, really true. Because of the complexities of all the different issues. Like, and I feel like I've known that since COVID started. I was like, all right, anything I see on any rectangle that's got pixels on it, I'm never going to trust it fully. And yet here I am, boom, every night. Here I am eating it up.
All of the, like everything that is outside of those 5 things that you really can care about. If you don't know that, if you don't know that you have a capacity and there's a ceiling to the amount that you can care, and the world is telling you about all these things that you should care about on repeat daily, eventually you begin to not care about anything.
Yeah.
If everything is tragic, nothing is. If everything is important, then nothing is.
Do you see that kind of reflected in, back to like Narrowgate students? Because I was wondering if you see that, is apathy.
Oh yeah.
You see a lot of apathy of guys coming in, and is that an issue?
Well, guys will come in now and I've experienced this more lately than I did even early on, but guys will come in with like a readiness to not argue necessarily, like even with like spiritual truth, like you're doing a study on the book of John, and they can quickly say, well, what about this, or I heard this, or, this is a philosophy that, I've heard about, and it's all from like that,
like spiritual stuff or like biblical.
Yeah. Like, that none of the guys that I was a student with, like came in with this whole other, multifaceted worldview that they'd picked up from YouTube or TikTok. And it's interesting because the difficulty that I can speculate on now currently is because social media is so a part of our normal culture now. When guys graduate, they're immediately submerged back into the world. And I feel like the world means more today than it did when I graduated 13 years ago. Because when I graduated,
because you have a peek into every corner of the world.
Yeah. When I graduated, I was nervous about, I was so anxious about moving back into my social circles that I had started with, because I didn't feel like I was prepared to, change their minds or to change the way that they act. And, honestly, it was more like I'm more likely to be influenced than I am to influence them. Mm-hmm. But when I say them, I'm talking about like a handful of people that I had, had a relationship with before. And so I made the decision to sort of start fresh. I was going to, I changed my phone number, changed my email, deleted, any way for people to really contact me. And I started over, with like a few people that I cared about. And that was how I transitioned back out into the world successfully. But now, even if you decide to start fresh as a graduate and change your phone number and, change your email, like you're not just stepping back into your circle that you had before you came to Narrowgate. You're stepping back into a world that has full access to you. So it's hard to be prepared enough, not just to like, defend your faith for like outwardly, like if somebody's having a conversation with you, but you pop on social media and now all of a sudden there's all these voices again that are challenging what you learned at Narrowgate and causing you maybe even to doubt, was that even true? And because of just the overwhelming amount of voices there are out there saying everything, we have to take our time here at Narrowgate while they're students seriously to prepare them for a world that wants to cause doubt about who they are. And so it's like, I feel like that it's even harder for these guys today to successfully move back out into the world with just all of the input that's available to them.
Yeah. And then, so there's the students, right? Mm-hmm. Protected, released out into the world. What about the 32-year-old Narrowgate graduate who's like, not you, you're not 32.
37.
I know you're old, dude. Don't worry. I'm talking about, the guys who, have their social media and they kind of grew up with it still. But we didn't talk about that in Narrowgate. Right. It wasn't like there's no curriculum around how to handle having a social media account and how to handle all the emotional turmoil that comes through and all the visuals and the identifying things that, seeing influencers that are pushing perfectionism and things like that. So like what is an actual way and practical way that somebody in our culture can practice discipline. Because, I think the stat is something like the average American spends 2.5 hours on social media a day. 2.5 hours.
It's crazy.
Of
Yeah,
their day.
and that's probably chopped up into little 5 to 10 minute segments, 20 minute, 30 minutes here and there. But like, I do that if I got brain lulls to
All right.
kill. All
So
of
Weston,
what
what does
back to your
Logan?
question.
What does Logan do?
What do I do? No, I'm needing the answer to this question actually.
But I think part of the answer is if you think about like what was life like for you during Narrowgate?
Yeah.
Like you could say, I've never experienced more peace in my life than when I was at Narrowgate. And sure, it's because you don't have bills, you don't have a job, you don't have like you have all these things that are a regular working American's responsibility. But there's a piece of that you're like, you got to take that with you.
Yeah.
And what is that piece? And what is the small part of the experience that we need to implement into our lives to keep that discipline alive? Because
I think that
Anybody got a quick answer for that one?
I think I've got,
write that in. Write
I've
that in
got
the
an
comments
answer.
below.
I think I have.
I was actually going to do that.
that's
Like,
cool.
hey, if you've
Hey,
had some
let's use
success
social
with that
media
discipline,
to solve the problem about social media. I think that it. I don't think that a section of Narrowgate devoted to how to handle social media is the end all solve all. I think it would be helpful and beneficial, certainly, but I think that the only way to prepare someone for that what we're talking about is to just beat the drum of the gospel, if to deeply ingrain like the core truths and maybe not even focus so much on like quantity of truth, but the quality of like a few really, really important ones. For example, the core truth that Christ is in you and your life is his. It's like Galatians 2:20. I've been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. And so that's something that we could just mention in a Bible study, once or twice, or it's something that we could focus on from the day they start to the day they graduate, so that when they move into the world, that one truth is so deeply ingrained in who they are that it comes up in everything. For example, me in this time that I have been, abstaining from TikTok, what I've noticed is the times that I was, just sit down and scroll on my phone was not just a habit that I'd picked up. It was a means to escape for me. It was there was something going on in my life that was causing me to feel overwhelmed or feel like I needed to just check out of my own life. And what I've realized in this time is that the people that are affected most by that is the people that I care about most, like my wife, my kids, the people that are that God has put in my sphere of influence. They are now experiencing this lack of me. Yeah. And it affects them, not because there's anything special or remarkable about me necessarily, but because when I isolate myself from them, I am also isolating Christ in me from them. And so I am robbing them of the opportunity for a potential encounter with God. Yeah. Because I just want to sit and scroll and check out of life. And if I didn't believe at the core of me that my life is not my own and that it's Christ's life in me, then that wouldn't matter as much to me. Yeah. And so that's something I think that is really important in preparing these young men to go out into a world that is full of these distractions. Is like, dude, they can't afford for you to be distracted. Mm-hmm. Like God is in you. It's his life. He has a purpose and a mission and an objective to encounter them and work through you to produce some sort of lasting impact in their lives. And when you check out through social media, you are checking them out of potential life encounter.
I don't know. I was reminded as you were saying that because I don't want to discount, like there's an entire corner of content on social media that is biblical scholars, apologetics, Christian content creators, right? Face value. That's you are one. I was going to say that. I was actually going to preface myself. I was going to ask you a different question and say, well, I need to preface this because we're officially content creators now. Mm-hmm. Then I was going to ask about if any students have become content creaters. And
technically Colin's the content creator. I'm just here.
Okay. But seriously, I mean, cause not to throw my wife under the bus, but she has, even just thinking about it earlier, it's like you can bring this principality under the authority of Christ. And
Yeah.
like, I look at my wife and I'm like, that's kind of what her social media feed is.
Yeah.
It's a lot of really studied biblical scholars, encouraging Christian content, homemaking content that has, faith at the center of it. And yet like, there's times where like, doesn't matter what the thing is, going back to what you just said, like, it doesn't matter what we're consuming. The fact we're consuming it, we're closing ourselves off to that truth that Christ is in me. My life is no longer my own. And one of my favorite things I learned to ask while at Narrowgate is like, all right, what if we just all woke up the next day and said, all right, Jesus, what do you want to do with your life in me today?
Yes.
What do you want to do with your voice in me? What, that challenge that we would do sometimes of like, hey, what if we like didn't say a word to anybody today unless we knew the Holy Spirit was wanting to say something to somebody?
Yeah, dude.
It's like, well, what if every night after the kids went to bed, that's how I treated my time with my wife, or if that's how she treated her time with me? And again, it's like we can grab for the good thing when the greatest thing is wanting to not even engage with the good thing at all on social media.
Well, it's just like anything else. Like nothing in and of itself is good or evil, right? I mean, like there's only one good, God, and we know where evil comes from. It's like anything in this life can be used for either or, I mean, like food is to nourish our bodies, but it can be used and abused to cause harm to our bodies, like alcohol, like Jesus drank wine with his disciples. The wine is not an evil, sinful thing, but so many people have abused it and taken it out of the context in which it was originally provided and twisted it. That's what evil is. It's a twisting, it's a reshaping, a warping of that which is good. And so social media is no exception. I think social media in and of itself is not a good or evil thing, but it can be used for good. It can be used for evil. It can benefit. It can harm. And
let's not overlook. I mean, I think one of the most important things that Narrowgate does, and you guys continue to do, is empower guys and equip guys to be like, you can learn how to hear the voice of the Lord, and you can learn how to study the Bible. This is not some unattainable skill.
Right.
Because I think, we don't have to dive into this, but like there's a lot of false teachers, Christian teachers, spiritual teachers. There's a lot of content out there. I mean, I feel like there was a big wave of it probably like 5 or 10 years ago. I mean, it would be, live streams of, you could start yourself a social media channel, go on live streams and live streams. You could start a live stream and call yourself a bishop. Now all of a sudden you're a bishop and you're praying for people online and you're putting out ridiculous promises. Hey, you just type your name and I pray this blessing of the Lord over you. It's like, bro, I don't want to discredit if God has used that for anyone's good. But there's a lot of like content out there that is spiritually confusing. Like false teachers are rampant and now they have more of a platform than ever. And so back to like the importance of like teaching guys of like, I don't know, man, I think there's something to Jesus saying like, don't call a man teacher, don't call a man father. Like I can't remember that.
To a higher standard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you as a young man, as a child of God can learn how to find that daily bread in your own pursuit of the word.
I think that's
and not need all these outside voices. Cause again, there's so many that are just bonkers right now.
what it all comes down to is, it's discipleship, man. Discipleship is the answer, because with a world of voices, from a quantity standpoint, you have a countless amount of people that can speak into your life, but the way to combat that is from a quality standpoint, like having somebody in your life that you are trying to model your life after, you are following, you are learning from, you are listening to with the depth of your heart, a person, and spending time with, just like the disciples spent time with Jesus. He was their input, the one that shaped their worldview.
Yeah.
And I think that today you're not going to get away from social media. You're not going to get away from the world's opinions about things and your temptation to find your identity in those voices somehow, but having somebody that can keep you grounded, having somebody to process through things with.
Yeah.
Hey, I heard all these things on social media today. What do you think? Help me swim through this. Help me process and remind me of the truth and lead and guide. I think that is just about the only way to navigate through this new world that we live in in a way that ends with, a firm foundation of faith and a hope for, the future.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, I don't know. I feel led to even just, we don't usually talk directly to our audience on this thing, but like something tells me like this is a topic that we could like revisit from time to time. And the truth is like there's graduates out there who are experiencing these issues probably differently than you and I are. And again, maybe you've had some success. I'm going to look to the camera now. Maybe you've had some successes, maybe you've had some failures, but like, I don't know. I'm genuinely curious to kind of hear what our graduates have to say on this subject.
Or just if you're listening.
If you've made it this far and you're listening, we'd love to hear what you think about this. I mean, we don't usually do that, but this feels kind of pertinent for some reason. But
yeah. But anyways, that's all we got.
Yeah.
That's all we got.
Let's get out of here.
Yeah. Next topic, aliens.
Yeah, for real. Orbs and drones, baby.
I think Logan might be one.